the American system based on public credit rather than monetary power, arbitrary monetary power. Now, the present system, to make as short of this as possible in terms of this aspect of the presentation, the present system, as long as we try to operate according to the rules of an international monetary system, the United States is now hopelessly doomed. And Howard Scream can scream all he wants, it's still doomed. He will just make it worse. There is no hope for the continued survival of the United States under the present monetary system. However, under our Constitution, with a president and with the backing of a Congress which supports him in this, the United States can turn on a dime. Precisely such is the key to my proposed legislation, which is now before the Congress. That is, you cannot reform this system. You cannot improve it. It cannot work. There's no way of escaping catastrophe globally under this system. None. What you can do, and you can do under our Constitution, the federal government can act to create a firewall in which we protect, for example, mortgages and banks, that is, legitimate banks, chartered banks. We move to protect them absolutely under the same thing as a bankruptcy procedure. In other words, you're putting the system into bankruptcy under the authority of the federal government. That means that no household will have an eviction. We'll sort it out later. No bank will be shut down. No regular bank, no chartered bank will be shut down. They're protected under bankruptcy protection. We now proceed to decide what is going to be paid in the future. We're not going to pay gambling debts. And most of this monetary effluent that you're seeing floating out there is gambling debts. What is called monetary assets. All is speculation, 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 speculator. Gambling debts. We don't pay gambling debts. What about my bank, my debt? I got this note. Who's going to pay my note? Nobody's going to pay your note, buddy. It's a gambling debt. Can't collect. It's an IOU, not worth anything. As George Bush said wrongly about Social Security claims. That's not an IOU. That's an obligation of the federal government. It's not an IOU. Gambling debts are IOU. Goldman Sachs is a bunch of IOUs. And I don't think they're going to pay that either. So the point is, what you can do under the authority of government, you can create a new system. In our case, in our republic, the system you would create would be a return to the principles of the Constitution as typified in example by the precedent of what Franklin Roosevelt did with Harry Hopkins and others to save the United States from the worst depression we'd had up to that time. That is, in the 20th century. We do the same thing again. So what is required here, leadership means, very simply, things that the average guy out there can understand. The average person on the state level, the state legislatures, in similar institutions, are sane. The people in the Congress are insane from the top down. That doesn't mean they're all insane. It means they're intimidated by Harry Reid, they're intimidated by Pelosi, and so forth and so on. Therefore, they will sabotage anything which is not pleasing to the bankers, to the financiers. And now it's to the international financiers, centered on the City of London. The center of the world economy today is the City of London. It's not the British monarchy as such. The British monarchy is an institution of the system. But the British monarchy is not the controller of the system. The controller of the system is a Venetian-style system of private financier interests, sort of like a slime mold, which assembles and asserts its collective power and uses the instruments of government under its compulsion to cause society to submit to its will. That's an empire. That was the empire, the medieval empire of the Crusaders and the Venetians, the usurers. That's been the British Empire since February of 1763, when we broke from the British on that issue. All we have to do is reestablish the principle of sovereign government. The sovereign government is the highest authority on this planet, and especially in our own country. We say we put the system into bankruptcy reorganization. Our objective is to make sure that we can keep the economy, the society going without missing a step. No one is evicted from their homes. No bank, which is a chartered bank, is closed down. We take other measures of a similar nature to ensure that what we're doing today that is good will continue. And we will build on that to introduce new things which will get us back on the road of expansion. And the first thing we'll have to do, which once I get this bill through the Congress, the next thing would go back and do what we should have done in 2005 and 2006. Take the capacity represented by the automobile industry of the United States. That is what is U.S. corporations. Take that capacity, which represents primarily a machine tool capacity in locations which still exist. The plant may be closed down, but the location exists. The people still live there, or most of them do. It has a machine tool capability. It has also an associated labor force which worked with the automobile industry and similar industries to engage in the production to realize the fruits of what the machine tool sector does in terms of rebuilding. We can use the remains of the machine tool sector associated with the auto industry by getting it back into functioning under government financing. We can use that to start a recovery program. We start it in the public sector. We build nuclear power plants rapidly, many of them. We build our water systems rapidly. We create a national rail system immediately, rapidly. We use these kinds of projects, which are government-related projects. We use these to stimulate employment and production in the private sector of industry, in agriculture and industry. The same way as the Household and Bankers Protection Act, same method. We create a firewall of law, a firewall of constitutional law, which protects what is essential for the functioning of the nation and the security of its people, to separate what we do day by day, which is protected, from claims of another nature. Those claims of another nature can stand outside the offices and wait their turn to be considered. We'll shut it down. We'll bring together a cooperation among nations. Take the case of Israel. The thing is a little more complicated than it might seem on the surface. But any sane Israeli, and there are some there, wants peace. They realize that Israel has no future in the continuation of the present system. Every sane Israeli knows that there must be a permanent peace between Palestinians and Jews. It must be established. You have the president of Israel at present has said so. Well, I know him quite well, and I believe him. And these have been ideas he's had for a long time. He is, for me and for many Palestinians, is an acceptable partner for discussion of this question. And the idea of having a two-state solution for the Middle East, Palestinians and Israelis, each with its capital in Jerusalem. So you have in Jerusalem two capitals, one the Palestinian state, one the Israeli state. You do this, first of all, by going to Syria, which is ready to make a peace agreement with Israel. Everything is done that needs to be done to discuss. You can go in there and you can make the agreement. You can't dictate it, but you can make the agreement. It'll work. If you're determined to make it work, it'll work. And that closes the last insecure border for Israel. That means then that you proceed with what? Well, with nuclear power. What's the big problem in that area? Water. There's not enough water. How can you get water? With nuclear power. Nuclear desalination. So now you can transform an area which is destitute because of the water crisis and related things, and if you have peace among these people as parties to the peace, and base the peace on commitment to this project, you can stabilize that region if people of goodwill are there. The problem is the Israelis did this little operation against Syria, and therefore they're not too enthusiastic at going right ahead right now and making the negotiation. Though Peres has indicated he's committed to doing it. And everything he says so far indicates that's true. So